Nobody was advocating for Geno.
I
know that. Don't be
I got the film.
Nobody was advocating.
I got the film.
Nobody was advocating for Geno Smith.
I got him saying it on film.
Stop. Because I think Deshaun Watson is shot. So, okay, that's a fact. I guess that's not a fact. That's an opinion.
Well, yeah, we'll see.
But here's some other facts. He was drafted in the 5th round.
Shedeur?
Yes.
Yeah.
He played, I guess this is not a fact, I guess, even though to me it is. He didn't play well last year. Now, we can make all the excuses, and they're fair. About the talent around him. He objectively did not play good football. There's no debate.
GBush blasts Adam the Bull live on UCSS. Cleveland fans can't believe this. This isn't just a takedown. It was a public execution of a narrative. That's exactly how hundreds of Browns fans described it. Because when GBush cornered Adam the Bull live on UCSS, the whole NFL world watched the implosion. Adam came in with one mission: put Shedeur Sanders on blast as the worst quarterback in the room. But GBush didn't just disagree. He shredded every argument, flip-flopped every claim, and left Adam straining for words. The fallout? Cleveland fans are shocked, NFL media outlets are buzzing, and the debate around Sanders' legitimacy has never been louder. Let's go back to that moment on UCSS Live, where everything ignited. Adam the Bull stepped into the virtual ring with confidence. He dropped lines like, "Shedeur Sanders is objectively the worst quarterback out of the room." He didn't hedge. He didn't soften. He said it ain't even up for debate. The crowd in that digital space even shifted, because that's a huge claim to make in 2026. A season when the quarterback position was wide open and competitive. Adam's argument leaned on a narrative many Cleveland critics had already whispered. Sanders' completion percentage, his interception rate, and flashes of inconsistency were proof that he wasn't franchise material. But GBush heard a different story, and he came prepared.
When you say you objectively didn't play good football, there are individual throws where you can see.
You say that about any quarterback.
Well, I'm just saying, there's individual throws where you can see the processing, you can see the touch, you can see the timing, you can see the accuracy.
Keep it real. He did not play well. Doesn't mean he's not going to play well. We understand the circumstances.
That is never
going to be hard for anybody to
Hold on. Here's the thing.
If you're going to argue he played well, then nobody's ever played poorly in the history of football.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
I've watched every single film. I've watched every single game 4 times.
Right.
I break down the film after the game.
Yeah.
We go over the film and we talk about what you did good and what you did bad.
Yeah.
So when people say you objectively played bad, it's a black and white situation.
What started as a discussion about quarterback prospects, including names like Cam Ward, Tyler Shuck, and Jackson Dart, quickly boiled over when Adam plowed through his criticisms of Sanders without hesitation. He wasn't just critiquing performance, he was dismissing potential outright. That's when GBush leaned in, smiled, and said the words that would change the tone of the entire segment. "I got time today." And he did, because GBush didn't just counter with opinion. He pulled out context, logic, and facts. He dissected Adam's claims point by point, turned perceived weaknesses into narrative questions, and questioned the very foundation of the Sanders is bad argument. Adam wasn't ready for that. And in the heat of the moment, things unraveled. Within minutes of the showdown airing, clips began circulating online. Reposts, timestamps, reactions, the whole internet exploded. Twitter blew up. Reddit threads in r/NFL and r/Browns lit up with fans both applauding and condemning what they had just seen. One fan wrote, "GBush cleaned him, straight up." Another wrote, "Adam looked like he didn't even watch film." The debate wasn't just about one man being right or wrong. It tapped into a deeper frustration. Sanders had been criticized all season long, both for uneven play and for the narrative his critics felt was built more on perception than reality. When GBush took hold of the mic, he turned that perception into a weapon. And fans reacted emotionally. Some shouted from the sidelines, finally someone defending him with actual logic. Others snapped back. "Sanders was bad. You're just making excuses." Social posts racked up thousands of upvotes in minutes. The story became bigger than UCSS. It was now part of the larger NFL debate about how we talk about young quarterbacks. Even media outlets took notice. Headlines appeared about Sanders' Pro Bowl selection, some calling it surprising or confusing, others praising his potential ceiling despite inconsistency. And in fan comment sections across platforms, the same emotional argument replayed again and again. Does a young QB deserve scrutiny, Or is the criticism unfairly harsh? Suddenly, Adam's initial attack was less about football and more about perception versus reality, and the internet was watching both sides collide. After the segment ended, the backlash was immediate. Adam the Bull faced waves of criticism. Clips replayed his hesitations, his interrupted statements, and the moments where GBush simply walked through his claims like a surgeon. Online fans didn't hold back. His narrative isn't supported by the film, one Reddit commentator wrote. He just sticks to a talking point. And the discussion shifted beyond the show. The larger sports media world began dissecting the real narrative. Is Shedeur Sanders a victim of media bias? Or was he legitimately miscast as a bad quarterback? Pundits brought up his early struggles, his interception rate, and lack of early reps, but also his Pro Bowl nod and flashes of high-level play. Some analysts argued that the quarterback room had more competition than fans realized. Critics of the podcast segment said GBush went too hard, that a podcast shouldn't be the place where narratives are decided. Supporters said he exposed lazy talking points. But either way, the conversation didn't die, and Cleveland fans felt torn. Some rallied behind Sanders, defending not just his athletic ability, but his resilience, the way he handled draft disappointment, moved up after setbacks, and fought for every play he got. Others turned even sharper. Why do we need to defend him when the stats are what they are, one fan posted, igniting another thread of argument. The result, a massive backlash, not just to Adam the Bull, but to anyone who wanted a black and white answer in a world full of nuance. So what is the truth? Numbers tell part of the story. In 2025, Sanders had a completion percentage under 57% with more interceptions than touchdowns, and the Browns ended the season without making the playoffs. But there's deeper context. Critics pointed to those numbers and said they revealed a lack of readiness. Supporters pointed out that Sanders took over in difficult circumstances, injuries, coaching changes, and a crowded QB room, and still showed dynamic playmaking. You see, what the UCSS moment brought into the open was bigger than a single argument. It was a debate about football evaluation itself. What counts as success, what is hype, and how fans interpret a young player's growth. And that's where GBush's points landed hardest. His critique wasn't just against Adam's narrative. It was against the lack of nuance in how people talk about quarterbacks. Because NFL careers aren't built on sound bites. They're built on film, growth, and adversity. And in Sanders' case, like many young quarterbacks, the story isn't about being perfect. It's about how you handle being criticized at every step. So what will this podcast blow up be remembered for? Was it just another heated internet argument? Or the moment where fans realized that narratives matter just as much as numbers? The truth is, every fan thinks they're right. Every critic thinks their view is backed by evidence. But football is messy. The Browns' decision to keep Sanders, watch him grow, and name him a Pro Bowler, even amid controversy, tells us something about the unpredictability of sports narratives. And maybe that's why Cleveland fans can't believe what they heard on UCSS. Because they saw a narrative die and a bigger one emerge in its place. Was GBush right? Was Adam the Bull wrong? Or are we just arguing about something more fundamental? How we quantify a quarterback's worth in the age of instant opinion. If you thought this was just podcast drama, think again. This was the collision of analytics versus emotion, media narrative versus performance, and fan loyalty versus harsh criticism. Cleveland might never look at quarterback discourse the same way again. If you want more deep dives like this, where we break down the hottest rivalries, the fiercest debates, and the real emotions behind NFL stories, hit subscribe and turn on notifications.